One of the more unique looking shows in the fall 2021 anime season was Ousama Ranking, or Ranking of Kings. This is a series being done by Woot Studio. It's going to go for 23 episodes. It's starting a little late, but I'm really happy I checked it out. But this is my thoughts on the first episode. Ranking of Kings follows a prince named Boji. And unfortunately for Boji, he was born deaf. And this causes him a lot of issues as a lot of people around him see him as being a failure of a prince, often laughing behind his back and sometimes even in his face. But it seems like at face value, Boji doesn't let this keep him down. He seems very positive. He walks around with almost a skip as he goes about his day, just enjoying life. And one day he comes across a shadow named Kage. And Kage is from a clan of assassins who it seems like he's the only one left. And this shadow has turned to thieving, and when he meets Boji, forces Boji to actually steal clothing for him. And even though Kage at first seems like he's using Boji and forces him to do this and laughs at him and calls him an idiot, it's interesting because Kage is able to actually understand what Boji is talking about. Even though, being deaf, he's unable to actually speak normally. And after Boji goes and gets clothing for him over and over again after several days, Kage eventually follows Boji back into his kingdom and back into the castle, where he ends up seeing how everybody laughs at Boji, but he still kind of continues on positively. And this is where we get a perspective of the people in the royal family, including the second queen, who looks down upon Boji as an idiot and somebody that should not ever be considered as the future king. And as Kage follows Boji back to his room where he's supposed to get clothed before he goes to meet the king, Kage sees a side of Boji that nobody else seems to see. This boy that's actually hurting. As he's alone in his room, he sees him cry. He sees this vulnerable side of Boji that even though in front of everybody else, Boji keeps a very positive nature, he's actually hurting. He actually does see the laughter. He does see that he's inadequate to people's eyes. And following this, the story of this episode splits. As we see Kage walking down the halls, he ends up being pursued by a guy named Bebin. And Bebin is a very skilled warrior. He actually controls snakes and fights to attack Kage, who he knows is part of this shadow clan that was supposed to be wiped out. Apparently, the Shadow Clan had actually attempted to assassinate the king, and they were all wiped out, obviously except for Kage. And at the same time, Boji goes to meet his father, the king, who's this very large man. You kind of find out that this very large, bulky man once saved the kingdom from a horde of monsters, and that's what kind of gave him his fame into being king. And his father fears for the kingdom. He wants Boji to get stronger because he fears that the kingdom will eventually not have a king that is strong enough to protect it. And so he instills in Boji that he must train, and he must train under Domas, who seems to be like the only person in this entire group of people of the royal family and the guards that knows sign language. So he's able to actually speak to Boji and often kind of translates for him. So Boji and Domas end up going out to do some training, and eventually one of the other princes, Daida, ends up showing up, and he gives Domas a run for his money. They claim that Prince Daida has actually defeated one of their best guards in a duel. And even though Domas is like excited about that, he's like, man, this prince right here is incredible. I want to train him. He's good at sword. He can be a great warrior. Boji steps forward and challenges the prince as well. So we have a prince versus prince kind of battle happening, or duel happening in the middle of this courtyard, and everybody comes to spectate. Everybody's excited, like, wow, why would Boji, this useless prince, he's deaf, he can't even talk, he's useless, why would he challenge Daida? He's like the prince that, he's a great fighter, he's strong and everything. Well, one guard questions it a little bit, because he claims that at some point he's seen Boji dodging the attacks of a whole bunch of snakes, which I immediately thought of Bebin when I seen this, like, did Bebin try to kill Boji? Because that's a lot of snakes, and they look a lot like Bebin's snakes. I guess we'll have to see later on that Bebin's possibly an assassin, but maybe he was just trying to get rid of him so that there was no question on who would be the next prince or the next king. But anyways, these two princes fight. And the surprising thing is that Boji is really good at dodging. He dodges all of Daida's attacks and eventually clops him on the head. So this kind of shows Boji is actually better at fighting than Daida. Even though Daida has a lot of strength, he's very vicious just like his father was, Boji is more skilled. He's more able to dodge attacks. So yeah, my thoughts on Ranking of Kings. Just from the first episode, I am already extremely excited for this series. It has everything in it, has the makings of something that could be incredible. Obviously, the big interesting thing in this whole thing is obviously having a protagonist that is deaf. It is something that you rarely ever see. I mean, I was excited when with Gangsta, we had a character there that was obviously deaf, and it created a very interesting storytelling there. This idea of everybody obviously seeing something as being a hindrance, but them not really being the sum of that. And I think that's what they're really kind of pushing here with Boji, is that, yes, he has this effect, but at the same time, he's trying to stay positive. He's trying to be strong. He's trying to overcome this despite everybody around him seeing it as like a death sentence. Like, this is it. He's done. He's useless. There's nothing that he can do. But yet Boji's showing them that no, he has something else to him. But even despite that, having this moment of vulnerability, like the moment that he went in his room and he started crying, I'm like, wow, this is really getting me. This is showing me that it's not always happy. It's not that he's just this dumb idiot that runs around. There's something to Boji. He is more than what you see. He is more than just his outward appearance that he wants everybody to believe that he's trying to be a strong prince. He's trying to be strong. If he were crying in the middle of the street as everybody laughed at him, they wouldn't see him as strong. He's trying in his own way to be strong. And I really did like the interaction between Kage and Boji already. This idea, this shadow that's able to understand him, finally giving him somebody that can actually understand his words. Even though it does seem like Boji can understand or read lips, he does have somebody, Domas, that actually does sign language. This is the only person that he feels like he can communicate with without any sort of other additional methods. And so this obviously excites him. It's like it's his first friend. Kage is literally, even though Kage was using him, Kage is his first friend. And he's excited about this, and he wants to give him whatever he has. Like, please, just keep talking to me. This is exciting. I have somebody I can finally communicate with. And it was really cute. I'm really interested to see what they end up doing with Kage, obviously, based on all the artwork and based on the OP. It seems like Kage is going to be pretty much like a part of him. So maybe like he'll work on his side to help him get stronger and possibly communicate for him. That would be interesting. It does seem like Kage wants a fun world. He says something to the effect of, oh, you're really going to be king? You're going to actually do that? Okay, well, go be king and make the world fun. Like, he has like a vested interest in possibly Boji being successful. Like, if he could make the world more entertaining and less about him having to steal to live is something that he's interested in. It obviously seems like the king is on limited time. It shows him obviously coughing blood. It seems like he's in his deathbed. I'm curious of exactly how quickly they will go into play with Boss actually passing. I'm assuming that here eventually soon. It does seem like Boji's kind of already in line to take over, just because he is the first son of the first queen, whereas I believe Daida is supposed to be the second son of the second queen, or the first son of the second queen, but the second son of the first king. I think I got that right. So I'm curious if they'll have Bose actually get taken out very quickly. That way it kind of forces them to all have to acknowledge Boji. But I know if you put a character into a king position, there's not much adventuring they can do, so I am curious exactly how they'll push that forward and maybe move Boji up to be a king that has to earn respect. It seems like just based on this last scene, he's gained quite a bit of respect from a lot of people around him, though I'm not sure how long that'll last. But it's interesting. I think it's a really cool concept they have here already. Like I said, having a disability, not letting it take over you, but still having the vulnerability there. The concept of somebody who everybody believes is a failure, having to show his worth to everybody, like having to go that extra mile in order to prove that. The possibility of having a king here that is unable to communicate, really. Now, again, I'm not sure how quickly they'll bring Kage into the picture and have him be like a translator for Boji and thus like circumvent that issue, that barrier that obviously is there, or if it's always going to be Boji having to speak some other way. It's just very unique already. Yeah, the art style is extremely unique. Not typically in a lot of anime these days anyways. If you watch older shows, it's kind of a more in that realm of style, but it looks extremely good. We have obviously Wit Studio working on it, so they are putting a lot of extra effort into it. Not crazy stuff so far, but just visually pleasing. It looks good. It looks like a storybook. It honestly does look like a storybook. And I really do like that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the first episode of Ranking of Kings. A lot of thoughts on the first episode. It's an extremely interesting first episode with a lot of promise here. I am super excited for this series. Like I said, I'm looking forward to what it can tell. I think it's going to be a very unique story, possibly. And for it going to core is really exciting. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does. And if you can, there's a tip button in the description where you can support us directly. And y'all take care.